welcome to the Rime Buddhist Center's Dharma Talk podcast, Achieving Peace Through Compassion. This podcast is a recording of the Dharma Talks given during our Sunday service.
There's a phrase I like a lot that I'm going to share with you, and I've shared it here before, so if you've seen me here before, you've heard it before. But it's gotten me through some tough times, just reflecting on this phrase. And it's what I use when the hits keep coming. It's what I use when one bad thing happens and then another and then another. And that phrase is, right now it's like this. Right now it's like this. And I tried to find out who originally said this, and I couldn't. No one on the internet seems to know, but if you're better at the internet than me and you can find out, let me know. But I learned it by listening to a Dharma teacher named Mary Stankiewicz, and she lives in California, and she has a podcast that I listen to called Undefended Dharma, and I really recommend it. It's a phrase she uses often, and it's a phrase that I use often, but lots of people use it, so don't give me credit for it at all. So when the check engine light comes on in my car, for example, I can be upset about that. I can cry and scream about it. I can think about how am I going to afford whatever's wrong, right? But I can also learn how to say, right now it's like this. Right now it's like this. This is a new thing to deal with. And when we have negative feelings, we tend to forget that they will pass. So when I'm stressed out about the check engine light on my car, I forget that stress, it's going to go. I'm either going to figure out how to pay for this or I'm not, but the stress is going to not stay at this level. And I think it's even the same for incredibly bad things. Incredibly bad things may last a long time, but also our relationship to it is going to change. So right now it's like this. I started a career that was thought of as a very stable career back in 2009, a very stable career with good benefits, with raises that were definitely going to happen over the years, and a good retirement plan. And current events are making that less stable now, or at least making it seem like it's going to be less stable now. And that really stressed me out at first. But then I thought, okay, right now it's like this. And I'm really bold, so I'm going to add to it. And I'm going to say, right now it's like this. What can I do? Right now it's like this. What can I do? Because when current events are freaking me out and when affecting me directly because of who I work for, there's still things I can do. Still things I can do. I led a rally yesterday, and I'm an activist. I'm showing up. I'm going to rallies. And that's something that at least it feels like I'm connecting with other people that are struggling. It feels like I'm accomplishing something. I hope so. Anyway, but I'm also going to talk about something we face a lot of the time, and that is what I call the suffering of inconvenience. The suffering of inconvenience, because that's something that we all have way more often than things like our job suddenly being insecure. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story. Back in January, we had an ice storm. Do you guys remember? We had an ice storm, and so I didn't leave my house for 2 days, and then I left my house, and then I got COVID. So I was deeply bothered by this long isolation. I could have just lamented and cried about how lonely I was, but instead I cultivated that right now it's like this attitude. As an aside, prior to 2020, I thought I was an introvert, and I thought I didn't like interacting with other people or being around other people or being the center of attention that much. It's embarrassing when I think about my views back then, but when 2020, we had the COVID lockdowns, and I almost immediately I realized that I was telling myself a story that was not true. What does Ariel say in The Little Mermaid? I want to be where the people are, right? I want to be where the people are. I don't even like working from home. And I stopped working from home as soon as I was allowed to, because it's not for me. So we had that ice storm, like I said. And I was at that time teaching a training class at work, classroom instructor training. And it's a 10-day class where we teach people how to teach classes in my workplace. And so I was getting ready to teach that, and we had some things happened. And I'm going to tell you what happened. It's a 10-day class, and I really enjoy doing that sort of thing. I enjoy educating. I need to get an iPad for this, like Llama Matt has. So we're planning this 10-day class, and then we suddenly had to take a day out of the class because a former president died. And I work for the government, so we close for a day of mourning when a former president dies. So RIP President Carter. So suddenly we have 9 days to work with when we're supposed to have 10. So right now it's like this. What can I do? We had to adjust our teaching schedule. What did we do? We added a day at the end. Great. So we still got 10 days, right? It's just that one of those days is a Monday. That's fine. But then snowstorm happened. So our building was closed for 2 days. We could not have the training remotely, so we couldn't have class. So right now it's like this. What can I do? Had to figure out how to do more with less. Had to figure out how to teach 10 days of training in 8 days because they were not going to give us any more. So we had to cut 2 days worth of training and rearrange the whole plan. So then that's what we did. It was a lot of trouble, but we did it. So then we returned for 1 day. So first day of class, then a day off for the day of mourning. And then on that day of mourning, about halfway through the day, I felt this strange body ache. And I recognized it immediately because in 2022, I had a terrible COVID experience. I was sick for 19 days. So I recognized this feeling right away, and I went and took a COVID test, and it was immediately popped positive. I don't know if that means you're sicker if it shows that result immediately, but I think so. So then I was like, oh, wonderful, right? I'm going to be gone for a few weeks from the world. Right now it's like this. What can I do? So I go to the pharmacy, and they have this drug that you can get that supposedly makes COVID go away faster. I didn't have this in 2022, but I had it this time. So I got this drug, and I started just pounding water and resting, okay? Because I've got COVID now. And so I missed that. The next day was a Friday. I missed that Friday. And then I know, well, I've got the weekend. And my co-instructors in the class, they had to pick up the slack until I could come back. And I'm sure they also thought, right now it's like this. What can I do, right? I had COVID for 4 days. And then I was recovered. So by that following Tuesday, I wore a mask the whole training just in case. But I was back. I was back because I tested and I was negative. And I had my appetite back and everything. Very different than 2022. When I had COVID in 2022, I did not eat for 10 days. All right. So very different. And so what I just shared is a story of inconvenience. Things not working out according to plan. Things that aren't supposed to happen, they happen, right? I just sold my house and it was on the market for 100 days. Houses are not supposed to be on the market for 100 days, but it's finally over with. I'm really glad, but that was a weight on me. And we don't call this type of thing suffering, but it's something we're all familiar with. It's the vagaries of ordinary life. It's something we all deal with probably all the time. And in this book, Meditation for Modern Madness, Dzogchen Rinpoche says, and I quote, "Human beings are guaranteed to have 4 kinds of suffering: birth, old age, sickness, and death. We have no choice about them. If we are born, death is inevitable. Everything is conditional, and we have to accept that. If we can relax and accept what comes, then negative situations turn into positive ones, end quote. So maybe we can even turn a crisis into an opportunity. I don't know. I'm trying to turn the crisis in my workplace into an opportunity. So we sometimes describe life as suffering, and the original term that we use in Buddhism is samsara, and that means it's not all perfect, and it's not all going to be perfect. Like I said, things that are not supposed to happen are going to happen. It's not all sunshine and rainbows, and it's not going to be. In spite of what Bob Dylan or Jay-Z tell us in their songs, we're not going to be young forever. Things are not always going to be good, because that is not how life is. That's not how life is for anyone. And we may look at some people and think that they don't suffer like we do, but the richest man in the world got divorced, so I think they do. Not for you. Life's not perfect for you or for me or for anyone. But another thing is, a lot of the time what we do is we do things to make things worse for ourselves. We have expectations that things are going to go the way we want them to, that the universe is going to line up. Maybe we even expect to be young and healthy forever, but you won't be, right? We expect sometimes life to give us what we want, but the truth is, our minds are never satisfied. We're always going to want more if we're coming from that scarcity mindset. Dzogchen Rinpoche goes on to say, we live in the mess and we have to accept it. I like that a lot. We live in the mess and we have to accept it, because life is a mess. And we don't want it to be. And our image of what we want life to be gets in our way. Life's going to be however it is. And we can get caught up in thinking about how unfair it is or how much we really want it to be different. We can easily do that. Or we can say to ourselves, what? Right now it's like this. What can I do? One more quote from this book, Dzogchen Rinpoche says, happiness will still come and go, but that is no problem when you can accept sadness as well as happiness. Whatever comes, no one will be able to upset your balance. It kind of makes that sound simple, doesn't it? But it's not. I don't know about you, but I do really dumb things like overspending when I'm really sad, but also when I'm really happy. Right? I do. So it's the extremity that's got me caught up. And I think reminding ourselves to say, right now it's like this, can be a lifelong journey. I know it is for me. So right now it's like this. What can we do? Thank you. I love you all.
Thank you for listening to the Rime Buddhist Center's Dharma Talk podcast. Music was provided by Barefoot Bran Music. Please consider supporting the Rime Buddhist Center by making a donation at our website at www.rimecenter.org/donate.